Well, it's worth repeating and basically putting out a history lesson of how the United States really formed and what it formed over, and what a bunch of pussies Americans turned into over the last centuries, I guess it is. This could be the same comparison that was made with ancient Rome. When ancient Rome was under attack, people would actually go out and try to fight them, even if they lost, even if they got slaughtered. Now, they were hiding in the cities behind the walls when things were going wrong and trying to get food from each other and giving up all their gold for crumbs of the crappiest bread and food there was going. There's a big difference between yesterday and today. And, I guess things come around full circle, and out of the ashes the phoenix rises again, because once people are totally crushed, then you got a true rebellion. Now, here's the British Union Jack. This is the flag that was flying during the time of 1776. This is the British flag. This is the time of King George III. Now, also want you to realize that there is not only the cross, but also the cross of St. Andrew, which is the X, because this actually bears repeating, because there is such conditioning going on with so many things where people are being lied to and conditioned like a knee-jerk reaction as to what symbology actually means. But let's get on to really, why did the American revolutionaries, or the colonists, revolt against King George III? Well, King George III raised the taxes. He raised the taxes from 2% to 5%. Think about that today. You know what our effective collective taxes are? They're well over 50%. They're well over 10 times what King George raised the taxes to, and everybody revolted. Does that tell you something? And, this is our flag of the colonies, the 13 colonies, the stars and stripes. But, what was the reaction of the real Tea Party? Not the political wimp Tea Party, co-opted by Sarah Palin, who's paid off by the big bucks yo-yos on the top. They threw the tea overboard. They didn't talk about it. They dressed up like Indians, and they threw the tea overboard. Right? History lesson here. Just want you to get it through your head. But, the thing is, they were smart and shrewd when they did this, because they didn't want to blame it on the colonists. Blame it on somebody else, you got to find a boogeyman, Hey, the Indians did it. They were mad at the tea tax going up. Yeah, right. It didn't take long for the British aristocracy to figure that one out. Why would the Indians throw the tea over the ship? They weren't getting taxed, They didn't even have any money, What the hell? What are you going to tax them on deerskins? They didn't drink tea. So it was at least they tried to scam, though, That was the thing. But the thing is, they actually took action. They didn't say, oh, well, King George, we're going to make a political movement. We're going to put a protest sign over here in the colonies and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, right. No, they actually fought back. Boom, 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 right? So that's what happened. And it was from a tax that went from 2% to 5%. Now, today, everybody's like, oh, better pay my taxes, But, you got to watch, because you can't freaking jump in front of a steamroller or a Panzer tank, because the IRS got Panzer tanks today. You can't be jumping in front of that like an idiot. I mean, you really can't be stupid. So people say, whoa, you're freaking not brave enough to freaking go against the tank by yourself and try to stop it with your hand. Yeah, right. I mean, you can't be stupid, okay? But then again, you just can't freaking say, oh, I'm going to protest, and that's going to be the end of it. Yeah, let's get together and talk about it. No, it ain't going to happen. Never happened, man. Actually, why the Magna Carta got signed? The original Magna Carta, which is the first document that really started bringing the rights to the people, to the peasants. It was when basically, literally, the sword was at the king's throat at the after the Battle of Runnymede, what I think it was, and he said, sign a document, or else you're getting the sword. They had swords back then. So that's how it happens. That's really what the reality situation is, you know. So, anyway, you know, tensions are brewing amongst the peasants, I could tell you right now. So, anyway, so today we got, you know, controversy over various things going on. I want to explain something about this Confederate flag, because if you were one of these true blue, silver, I'm against the banksters, I'm against the, you know, the too bigs to fail, I'm against the New World Order, I'm against excessive taxation, I'm against excessive government intervention. Well, you don't, if you're not freaking sticking up for the Confederate flag and what it's really stood for, what it really stood for, it wasn't about racism, because I want to bring out some direct quotes from freaking Abraham Lincoln, okay? I'm not going to play games on this video, man. I don't know if it's going to be popular, but maybe it will be. But I'm telling you the truth because, you know, there's an old Roman axiom. The truth is mighty. It will prevail. So only the truth gets out there by the ones that are fighting for the truth and saying the truth. So the truth of the matter is the Confederate flag, or the flag of the South, or the flag of Dixie, today it really means a regional flag. You know, it means that. And it's not an anti-American flag. It always is. You know, it's morphed into people who fly the Southern flag are pro-USA all the way. They're not against, they're against excessive taxes and restriction of individual rights, but they're still pro-American all the way. But let me get it on to a couple things first before I even talk about the taxes that were put on the South, because this Confederate flag is like a flag of rebellion by the colonies in 1776, except about 90 years later. That's what it is. The powers of the British monarchy and the banking system all jumped into New York, into the North, and the North was screwing over the South monetary-wise. Now, let's get on to that subject first before we get into the actual taxes that was being forced on its South. Let's get into Abraham Lincoln himself. Now, I know you hear about the Emancipation Proclamation, all this type of stuff. Now, this was September 18th, before he even ran for office, September 18th, 1858. So the South actually knew his position on slavery. He was not going to free any slaves in the South. As a matter of fact, after the South broke away from the Union, Abe Lincoln tried to make a deal with the South that he would make this slavery a permanent institution in the South. Permanent. That's what Abe Lincoln tried to do. And guess what? The South said no. They said, that's not why we're breaking away. It's over the freaking taxes. And I'll get into what that is. But first, before I get into that, I wanted to get clear just what Abe Lincoln really was about, because I'll give you this quote. Abe Lincoln said that he's not the first, nor he's not been in favor of bringing about anyway the political and social equality of white and black races. He says he's not in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. Abe Lincoln also said, in addition to that, he says there's a physical difference between the white and black races, and Abe Lincoln believed that it will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. Abe Lincoln, okay? And Abe Lincoln also says, so much as they cannot live together, while they do remain together, the blacks and the whites must be in a position of superior and inferior. And he says that Abe Lincoln says he doesn't perceive that because the white man will have this superior position, that the Negro should be denied everything or whatever. I don't know. So he was against equal rights all the way. The Emancipation Proclamation was done by Abe Lincoln to appeal to the moral type white people in the North, so they would fight on the side of the North, because nobody wanted to fight against the South. They had the biggest freaking draft dodging riots going in New York in the history of the United States. It was bigger than, anything that happened during Vietnam. The only way people got on board was when Abe Lincoln issued that Emancipation Proclamation, only freeing the slaves in the South, none of the people under his control. And I'll repeat it again. The last state to outlaw slavery was Delaware, a Union state, a northern state, a state under Abe Lincoln's control. And I'll also tell you, the last people, Ulysses S. Grant, General Ulysses S. Grant, later president of the USA, and also the general on the side of the North, he didn't even free his slaves after the slaves were freed by Abe Lincoln. But you know who freed the slaves in 1863? General Robert E. Lee, the ones he inherited. He freed them. 1863. And, there's been a lot of instances of this, so it was all over freaking money. So I'm going to give you what the kind of tariffs were going on during that time. And what it was, like I talked about with the Tea Party, the British Crown was going to raise the tax from 2% to 5% on tea. The South has always been paying high taxes on the cotton to pay for all the crap in the North. In other words, the colonies were pissed off that they weren't getting fair representation. That's why they revolted against the British Crown. Well, what happened was the South wasn't getting fair representation with all the money they were paying, because all that money they were paying for taxes, they were bearing the biggest brunt of what was going on in the government, and most of the benefits were going to the North. So in the South, they had a tariff that was, first off, it was in 1832 or 7, I forgot. I'm doing this right off of memory. They called it the Tariff of Abominations. They lowered the tariff in the 1850s to around 15%. But Abe Lincoln was running on the northern money interest side, and the government was broke. They were in debt. He ran on a ticket to raise the tariff back up. As soon as he got elected, you know what happened? They raised the tariff from 15%, and this is on the South stuff, 15% to 37.5%, plus they added more items that would be taxed. They raised it by 2.5 times. Not 2% to 5%, which we rebelled against the King George against. No, they raised it from 15% to 37.5%. That's why they said they were going to break away. They were going to break away back in the 1830s over this tariff. But it's, it's just more about diesels that are telling you about silver too. But I could tell you one thing. I really pick up that there's a lot of stuff going on in this, with the silver sellers and the coin sellers and the ones that are making speeches about silver. They're all in it for the greenback dollars. They sell DVDs. They hide behind religious cloth. They don't fight. I'm telling you what the deal is, and actually holding silver is like a rebellion against the monetary system that we got today. I know that what the system is, they're pushing more and more debt through more and more taxes on property, more and more regulatory fees. Is either improvement, it's a whether you did everything yourself. If you went out in the woods, or we went out in the woods and you made your own lumber, well, it would still come by and it would say, I'm going to assess your property on the value of what the value of the improvement is, or they'll make an assessments on, schools which are run by the government. They'll make assessments on other things that are basically, environmental protection or whatever, renewal regulatory fees. They basically constantly take the money out of you, and if you don't pay it, they take the asset. That's the game that's always been going on. But anything really could function as money. People talk about it's got to be physical silver. That's impractical, okay? The whole point is that the money should be backed up by something. Whether, it's oil, lumber, trees in the woods, minerals in the ground, mineral rights of the ground or something, even water rights or whatever. But I have to state this. One thing I get aggravated at is the same people that are coming out strong for silver, they run in the other direction over the Confederate flag issue, which tells me they're false all the way. Because if the silver's about fighting excessive regulation, excessive taxation, a corrupt government that is tied in with the money crowd up in the Wall Street, and that's why you're holding silver, you're attempting to fight this or whatever, supposedly, right? Well, the thing is, that's exactly what the South fought about all the way. Even though they were outnumbered, they even won many battles. Actually, the South, if they were anywhere near the resources of the North, in manpower or equipment or ships, where they can get, they had the blockade going, they would have won. Because the South actually fought a lot harder than the North. I can guarantee you that right now. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. They were outnumbered in manpower, equipment, resources, and money, all the way. It's a fact. It's a fact. And they were fighting a noble cause. But the silver people are too scared to say this. At least most of them. Not all of them. Most of them. Well, the big ones are. Oh, the big ones are. They won't freaking come out for that. None of them will. And, the other thing that aggravates me, it's not really a bitch section here, but I'm telling you who the real false prophets are. If you're an advocate of silver and you're against fiat money because it's not backed by anything or whatever, or you're against electronic money because it's not physically owned, you don't actually own something, well, why the hell would you be coming out for Bitcoin and silver at the same time? Sure, some people made a hell of a lot of money on Bitcoin, but there's people that made a lot of money on hemp stocks before they got, before hemp was legal. Once it became legal, hemp stocks went way up, right? I tell you the truth, I'd rather have an equity than Bitcoin. And you're talking about paper and electrons and all this type of stuff. Yeah, and you're telling me I don't understand or whatever. Yeah, fine. But, like I said, it's a matter of principle. I'm all for owned money of real value. Silver, gold, platinum, or palladium. Palladium and platinum, they're not really traditionally money, but they're still, they're precious metal that they're on exchange and have a value. So it's not like having a lump of zinc or something like that. It's a little bit, but silver and gold makes the most sense, But at the same breath, you really can't be talking about arguing, why silver's the best value, and at the same time be saying, oh, Bitcoin. But there's a lot of people that do that. And, Mike Maloney's one of the ones, which surprised me because I kind of respected this guy. And all of a sudden, but he's not the only one. I don't want to knock him too much because I generally think this guy's right, Mike Maloney. I generally think he's right. But it's like, why the hell would you come out with Bitcoin? And, you ever hear Mike Maloney talk about why the South should have rose up and why they really had a righteous cause? Nah. You ever hear David Morgan talk about that? Nah. You hear Mark Farber talk about that? Nah. You hear Jim Rogers talk about that? Nah. Right? Because they're scared. They're scared. Ron Paul, is he going to talk about that? No. And, I already said this guy was he's one of those guys you talk about when you lead the opposition. He's in with the group, man. He's a Freemason all the way. And you say, oh, he's not, whatever. Yeah, he is. He's in with the scam. So is his son, Rand. But compared to Hillary Clinton, I mean, or Jeb Bush, I'd vote for this guy in a second. You know what I mean? Guarantee you. But I'm not gonna have conniptions getting behind this guy like, oh, he's gonna save us. Yeah, right. Anyway, And then you got guys like this I respect, which I think they're going to be right. Because they've been right. They make a lot of money. Mark Farber, Jim Rogers. And Jim Rogers is like, yeah, he's okay on gold. But he's really on with farming and agriculture. And actually, if you think about it, with all the stuff that's coming up with the climate change, getting colder, not warmer, getting colder, mini ice age or severe mini ice age, Jim Rogers is going to be right. Because you know what? Nobody wants to freaking pick up a shovel or, a hoe or whatever, run a tractor or all that kind of stuff. Because it's too much work. He ain't going to do it either. Jim Rogers, I don't know. He's not too bad because he rode a motorcycle across the whole world and shit. That was cool. Anyway, and Mark Farber's cool because he likes them ladies over there in Thailand. But none of them are USA. Mark Farber's living in Thailand and Jim Rogers living in Singapore. They ain't going to do nothing for you. They're going to make a lot of money off of somebody else's misery. That's usually how they make it. How do you think they freaking make money? How do you think they make money? You know what I mean? Either one of these... Well, maybe Jim Rogers did some wrenching on his bike, but, did either one of these guys crawl under cars on the creepers and, pull out a transmission? Nah, none of them did that shit. Jim Rogers all in with Soros. That was his, quantum fund. And Mark Farber, he made money, but other people making mistakes. They lose out, he makes out. They ain't my heroes, man. You know what I mean? They're not my heroes. To tell you the truth, my heroes are the ones from the South. From the South, man. The ones that fought righteously. And, over 200,000 died. I want to tell you right now, man, this is like, I look at it like there's a criminal cartel telling untruths about everything out there, coming from, the Muslim Obama administration and all that type of stuff. Not only, people talk about they're attacking Southern heritage. Oh, they're attacking a lot more than that, man. They're attacking everybody's individual rights in the United States, no matter what. Because, again, I'll repeat to you, Abe Lincoln, he wasn't about the Emancipation Proclamation. And the South never fought. You could say legally maybe they were fighting for states' rights. But really, why were they fighting? Nobody picks up a sword in their life and puts their life in danger, goes through all the hardships because they're fighting over states' rights principle or heritage. Nah, it was over they're getting raped financially, man. They're getting totally raped financially, completely and totally. It's amazing, like, we don't have something like this right now with Obamacare. What do you think those, those people in black robes, you think they're going to throw the case out because you talk to them? Nah, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Now, I think I said enough on this video because, I can really lay it out to you, but it'd probably be beyond what you should say on here. But the situation we got today is like at least 100 times worse than it was under King George. As a matter of fact, I wish King George was alive today, or Edward VII, Edward the Caresser, that guy who was supposed to be my great-grandfather. I don't believe that shit. That's amazing. I wouldn't even, compared to the monarchs of England, the stuff we got going on in today, it's even worse. So I know the deal, man, and I still am working in a CPA firm, but I don't go there that much. I don't like doing that shit, man. I'm getting sick of it. I've been sick of it. I'd rather do real stuff. Real work, man. And the sun is shining a little bit today. Maybe I'll start doing some car work again. Yay! Anyway, so time is to revolt. And remember what we're really revolting against. Hey, remember, all the bullshit. All the bullshit. You know what that means? That means the Confederate flag, man. And it don't mean you're anti-U.S. That's why I had to show an image here of the U.S. flag and the Confederate flag. Remember what the U.S. flag really stands for. Rebellion. Individual rights. Rebellion against excessive taxation. That's what the rebel flag stands for, man. I call it the rebel flag. They don't. Maybe the Confederate Southern people don't like calling it the rebel flag, but that's why you got silver, man. That's why you got silver. So let's keep screwing around with this bullshit, Silver is a real tangible money that you can hold in your hand. It's debt free. And I know it's used in a gazillion different things with electronics. Now I think in the future, silver could actually go down as far as demand due to carbon nanotechnology. When they perfect that, because all these intricate circuits might not be requiring silver. But that's a ways off. In the meantime, I look at it like silver, to sum it up, which will be the title of this video, silver is the rebel's metal. That's what it is. It's the rebel's metal all the way.